You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Hello, everybody. I am Cindy Seidelman of the Angry Marks Radio Network, and welcome to the C-List. What is the C-List, you ask? Well, this is a podcast dedicated to the C shows in wrestling. These are the shows that had jobber matches and sometimes mid-carders go against mid-carders. To me, this is a show that is very, very underappreciated these days. For this show, we're going to talk about Wrestling Challenge from 93 to 95, when it was canceled. We'll also be talking about Shotgun Saturday Night from 1998 on. Also, when Shotgun becomes Jacked Metal, depending on where it was syndicated. Some more recent stuff like Superstars or Main Event, because let's face it, those were B or C shows. Also, we'll be talking about WCW C shows, such as Pro, Main Event, Worldwide after 95, Saturday Night after 98, and we're just going to have a good time going back and looking at these shows. And I figured that the first one that we would look at would be a doozy, a special 90-minute episode of WCW Main Event. So let's get going. We kick off with a nice promo package featuring Ron Simmons turning on Ice Train because he gets miffed when Ice Train says he has to beat Ron if he wants to get to the top. This pretty much set Ron off and pretty much leads to our opening match, which is Ron Simmons versus Tommy Angel. Now, Tommy Angel wants to start with a handshake, but all throughout the match, Ron just clobbers him. Aside from an early dodge of a shoulder tackle and a hope spot, this is all Ron just showing off his strength and what he plans to do to Ice Train later on. The finish of the match is him getting a spine buster and the win in 3:11. He's not done with talking about Ice Train because after the match he has an interview. He pretty much says what he plans on doing to Ice Train and says he's going to beat the student because he hasn't taught him everything. The whole storyline between Ice Train and Ron Simmons is coming to a head at Clash of the Champions. Ron being the teacher of Ice Train. I don't know where Ron Simmons taught Ice Train, probably at the power plant. But this should be a very interesting match, because I have to be honest, I haven't seen this Clash of the Champions. I know it's headlined between Sting and Flair versus Rick Rude and Vader, which is something we'll talk more about later on. Match number 2 features the Nasty Boys with Missy Hyatt versus Buddy Ryan, no, not that one, and Richard, not Dean, Anderson. Now, I need to preface, this wasn't the same Buddy Ryan who was the mastermind behind those Bounty Bowl games, and Richard is no relation to Arn, Ole, or even Gene. The Nasties are shown with Missy Hyatt, who, let's be honest, is on her way out at this point because of the photo incident that happened with her. At a WCW event, one of her breasts came out of her dress, and a picture was snapped and put at WCW headquarters. It was then blown up to gigantic size, and Missy complained. Eric did nothing, so she complained to Turner. After that, Eric fired Missy for doing that, and the whole lawsuit afterwards was insane. Missy sued for profits from the calendar that was being sold, also her work on the WCW hotline. I have no idea what happened with the lawsuit. I'm pretty sure you could read about it on the Death of WCW. And this match was just an absolute squash. There's no two ways around it. Ryan and Anderson got no offense in. They beat up on Ryan, then they beat up on Anderson, and Sags won with his elbow drop in 306. Afterwards, they said they'll knock all the tag teams down and be the champions forever. And then we get to an interview with Diamond Dallas Page, freshly back over a brand new image look. His storyline has been pretty much kept to Main Event. Over the past few weeks, DDP's been pulling out names out of a fishbowl to wrestle, but they've all been people that are retired or were just blank cards. Before DDP makes a selection, the Z-Man comes out and challenges him. DDP says he's not even worthy of being in the bowl. Zink puts his name in and tells the Diamond Doll, aka Kimberly, that his number is on the back. Let's be honest, that is completely cheeky of Zank. He's sitting on another guy's woman, and that is not a face thing to do because Zank is the face here. DDP ends the interview with him saying he'll crush him like Godzilla crushes small towns. Here's where you get a taste of DDP's promo skills, which are just phenomenal. Another thing that I liked about these C shows is that we get hype for the big events, especially on WCW shows. Especially the Clash of the Champions Control Center. The Control Center opens up with Vader destroying a locker room after losing his title to Ric Flair. It was one of the last great Starrcade matches of all time. Mean Gene hypes up the elimination tag match at Clash of the Champions between Sting and Flair and Vader and Rude. And then we're treated to a promo with Sting and Flair. Sting says that he and Flair is enough to sell the show and make you watch. And Flair gets his usual mid-90s shouty promo by saying they'll roll over them at the Clash. Gene then runs down the rest of the card, and then foreshadowing from earlier, hypes up the WCW hotline with Missy Hyatt. Match number 3 has Lord Steven Regal, the TV champion at the time, versus Mike Wenner. A typical Regal match. He stalls for 1 minute before trying to get some offensive, but Wenner gets some offensive with some arm drags, hip tosses, and butter sauce by taking it to Regal instead of having Regal control the action. Larry, during commentary, delivers a great line by saying, "Defense is fine, but offense is final." What's shocking about this match is that Wenner is controlling the match with an armbar and wrestlock for a good chunk of the match. And in order to turn the tide, Sir William grabs Wenner's ankle for the distraction, and Regal goes to town on him with European uppercuts and forearms. However, Wenner keeps up the aggression by taking the fight to Regal. However, he then gets Wenner into the turnbuckle, gets him in the Regal roll, and wins in 5 minutes. You know what? This was a very exciting match and proves something about the jobbers in WCW. They are pretty much competent enough to show that they could win a match, and the show with Wenner proves it. And if you want a little bit of history about Wenner, he is actually one of the trainers at the Power Plant. He was there around 95, 96, all the way up to the end. Thumbs up for Wenner. Match number 4, it's the Super Shockmaster versus Mike Thor. Now, Super Shockmaster is pretty much the Shockmaster, but with better looking gear and a mask. He actually looks like a professional wrestler and not someone who just got done from the work site. He also kind of looks like Big Bear from King of Fighters. Also, not a fan of the woman shouting in the theme. Either way, Mike Thor poses no threat to Super Shockmaster. He also breaks some rules by using chokeholds, which is not like the Shockmaster at all. Super Shockmaster finishes him off quickly by slamming him down with a claw hold in 122 in a match that absolutely died in front of the crowd. Post-match, Super Shockmaster sounds like Ole Anderson in his auspicious debut, but he's doing it in real life. He reiterates that he isn't Uncle Fred. Also, he challenges Vader to a match, and that never happens because this is the only appearance for Super Shockmaster, and he'd be out of WCW a month later. He later turned back up at the WWF as Typhoon after Earthquake bailed on the company in May of '94 to take his place in the feud with Yokozuna. Match number 5, Harlem Heat versus Cactus Jack and Match Pain. And what is being billed as the first of a double main event, a no main event, these two teams are looking to get into tag team title contention. Not only that, trash talk was flowing throughout the match. Throughout the opening of the match, Max and Jack work on Stevie Ray's arm, and Booker T tags in and can't do much of anything against Max Payne. Stevie tries to interfere, but Cactus cuts him off at the pass. However, successful in taking out Cactus when they brawled outside and tripped up Max, allowing Booker to get some offense in. Booker hits a DDT and fails to follow up on anything, which draws the ire of both Tony and Larry. Because of this, Booker misses a leg drop and Max tags Cactus in. There's a big schmoz between the two teams. Booker throws Cactus over the top rope, which results in a DQ win for Cactus and Max in 5:47. Post-match, the Heat double team up on Max until Cactus grabs David Penzer's chair and threatens to hit the brothers with it. The Heat bail, and this feud isn't anywhere near finished. Match 6, Johnny B. Bad versus The Gambler. Now, The Gambler is a favorite of mine. WCW at least gave their job guys some gimmicks, and The Gambler is one of the most well-known, so it's always a treat to see him. However, this match is mainly Bad showing off his wrestling skills, mixed with trying to hit his haymaker finisher. Anytime The Gambler tries to get into contention, Bad always goes back to the arm. And the finish comes when The Gambler lands some back blows, but Bad hulks up, lands some kicks to the gut, throws the gambler into the rope, lands one more kick, and hits his kiss that don't miss, i.e. a left to the face for the 3 and 225. After the match, we get an interview with Johnny B. Bad saying that he wants to win some gold in 94. Even the tag titles with his current partner, Michael P.S. Hayes. He is also involved with a feud with Texan Shanghai Pierce, and he wants to unmask Shanghai to show how ugly he is. That's kind of a heel move to unmask someone just to show off how ugly they are, though. But now it's time for our main event, and this is a true main event. U.S. Champion Stunning Steve Austin with WCW International Champion Ravishing Rick Rude versus Flying Brian and the Natural Dustin Rhodes. And there's so many intersecting feuds from 1993 here. Dustin is currently feuding with Austin with the U.S. title. The same title Dustin was feuding with Rick Rude over at the beginning in 93. Pillman is feuding with Austin with the Blondes breaking up and in a feud with Colonel Parker over a chicken suit. Now that match happens at the clash between Pillman and Parker. This match, however, did feel lifeless, with the first part of the match just Rude and Rhodes working out each other's arm until Steve tags in and works on a headlock more than Randy Orton does. Rhodes reverses it but gets thrown out for his troubles. This match honestly doesn't perk up until Pillman and Austin are in the ring together. They have a series of near falls until Brian just slaps Austin's chest red. Austin ducks out and asks for a timeout, which Rhodes and Pillman let him have. Turns out to be a mistake as Austin tags in Rude, and Rude dominates Rhodes with forearms and tries to wear him down with a big bear hug. Afterwards, Rhodes gets funky like a monkey and hammers Rude, but Rude counters into a nice belly-to-belly suplex. Austin proceeds to attack until a double knee drop gets the upper hand, and then both KO each other with a clothesline. Sadly, this is where the match and the entire show cuts off on my copy. But if I were to hazard a guess, it would be a schmoz, and Austin sneaks a win to build up the clash match between Pillman and Colonel Parker. I'm assuming Parker interfered in the match. And that is WCW Main Event from 1994, the special 90-minute edition of WCW Main Event. And to be honest, I actually quite enjoyed this, because you had some surprise matches that were really good, especially Mike Wenner versus Steven Regal. I also enjoyed Harlem Heat versus Cactus and Max. It was just all out fun to watch. If you could find it on YouTube, do check it out. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the C-List. I'd like to thank you for listening. Until next time, bye-bye!
You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.